Today we're going to be working on overlapping triangles, meaning taking a look at triangles that line up on top of each other and looking at how we can separate them to help us answer the questions. All right, so let's do a little bit of review first. So step number 1 says circle the common side of ABC and ADC, meaning what side do those two triangles share? Well, if we look at the names, we are looking for the letters that they both have in common. And if you notice, they both have AC in common. So that tells me that the common side is indeed AC. All right, you also could draw the two triangles, ABC, ABC. Okay, and then I'm also going to draw an ADC. Well, if I'm going to draw them and I know they have a common side, I have to think about how they're connected. So one way I could draw is this ADC. So they have triangle ADC. All right, and that also shows me the common side is AC. All right, number 2, circle the common side of XWZ and YWZ. All right, well, going based upon what we said for number 1, once again, the letters they both share is WZ. So that would be your common side. And you could once again draw a picture to illustrate that. And the common side of RST and RPT, RT, those are the letters they both have in common. Okay, so just reviewing common side and how we look at the names of the triangles to help us identify that. So keeping that in mind, let's take a look at these triangles over here. So we're identifying common parts based upon an overlapping triangle. So got it says, what is the common side in ABD and DCA? Well, a little different right now because if you noticed, I'm going to outline ABD in red for you, ABD. And then I'm going to outline DCA in blue. Okay, if you notice, I do draw over one side. I draw over AD in both of them. We're going to take this and we're going to break up these two triangles, though, because as they get more complicated, sometimes it's hard to see. One good method is to use a highlighter or a colored pen and trace each one in a different color like I did, and it can help you that way, especially as we work with the overlapping triangles. But let's go ahead and let's break them down. So the question says separate and redraw triangle ABD. So obviously it's not going to be to scale, but I'm going to do the best I can. So here is A, B, D. I just pulled it out of the diagram. And I'm going to draw DCA. So I'm going to do it the same way that it looks, just they're not on top of each other anymore. So DCA. Okay, so by breaking them apart, I can also see the common side that they share. So I drew AD twice. So that means that the common side is AD. Okay, so once again, breaking them apart and drawing it can help me find common sides. Also, coloring or outlining them in different colored highlighters, marker, pen, that can help too. Sometimes it's hard to see overlapping triangles. All right, let's take a look at this one. Separating overlapping triangles. So once again, I see two of these guys. All right, now we're not going to sit here and do a proof. I'm going to cross that off, but we're just looking at this. So I see a bunch of different triangles in here. Okay, I could take a look at this triangle right here, and this one right here. I can break it down, and I could look at the smaller triangles. Okay, so there's a lot going on in this diagram. So let's take this, let's unpack and see what we're talking about. Okay, so let's look at what we are given. So we are going to look at that to help us find common and overlapping triangles. It says angle CAD is congruent to EAD. So as we've been doing with proofs in class, I'm going to immediately go to my drawing and make some markings. CAD is here, CAD. So this angle is congruent to this angle right here. CAD and EAD, they are congruent. I also know the angle C is congruent to E. So this angle is congruent to this angle. Okay, that information is given to me. So I could prove which two triangles congruent. I know this is not what it's asking us, but let's think about what we know. We could do CAD, triangle CAD, and DAE, because we could have angle, angle, and then a reflexive side right there. All right. So number 14 tells me to circle the angles that are vertical angles. Take a look at the diagram. Where are my verticals? They are right here. Remember, if you were to trace both of them, they would both form a V and the tips are pointing towards each other. Okay, so what two is that? That's FDE and BDC. Okay, so these two right here, those are my vertical angles. So you've got to be looking for those parts. All right, so based upon what we know, we're just going to go ahead and mark the angles that are congruent in each pair. So really what this diagram has done down here, these four boxes, is it's taken that big diagram and broken into all the little triangle parts. So looking at ABD, I'll move this down in a second, hold on. Wrong way. Looking at ABD and ADF, what angles do we know are congruent? Well, we know that these two are right here. We've already marked them. Okay, right now we don't know of any other angles in that triangle. We don't. We can assume things, but we don't assume. We know what happens. So in these two triangles I'm outlining in blue, I know that the two angles at the end are congruent. I also could say that this side is congruent. It doesn't ask us to state that, but why not? Those sides congruent to that side because of the reflexive property. All right, now looking, let's go bigger, looking at ACD and ADE. So ACD is right here, and ADE. What angles? We know this angle again, because that was given to us. And then we also know this angle because that was also given to us. And we said that we can decide that side is equal to each other because of the reflexive property. So we actually could prove those triangles congruent based upon angle, angle, side, which is what I had mentioned earlier. All right, ACF. So this guy, let me do this one in red. So here, okay, and then ABF. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm sorry, AB, use a different color just to see the two, because these are overlapping. So the other two weren't overlapping. They were just sharing common sides. These two are overlapping. Okay, so what do I know is true? Well, I know C and E are congruent because that's been given to us, so same thing. We know that these two are congruent because it was given to us. Okay, they don't share entire sides. If you notice, they kind of share part of a side here, but then one triangle continues and part of a side over here, and then the other side of the triangle continues. So we don't know anything about their size. That's okay. All right, the last one, the little guys at the end. Oops, here. And I'm given BDC. And this one, well, we already talked vertical angles. We know that those two are congruent. They don't share any common sides. We know nothing about the other angle. So I've got this one's congruent to this one, and this one to this one. Okay, so once again, all we were doing is going through and looking at a big picture and seeing, how many little triangles there really are there, and how we can talk about congruent angles and sides based upon what we're given. All right, we're not really going to prove anything. We're just looking at it. So let's go ahead and flip to the back. All right, you try identifying the overlapping triangles, identify any common sides or angles. I'm actually going to do the first one with you and then pause and let you do the other three to show you what we're expecting of you. So all I want you to do is to, first of all, look at which triangles you're looking at, ABC and DCB, and just go ahead, pull them apart and draw them separately, the best you can. Labeling ABC. Okay, and then I'm going to do my other one. Best you can. So then the directions are saying identify any common sides or angles. Well, looking at originally, they both have BC. They share that side. So I'm going to put a little congruent mark here. Do I know anything about their angles? No. Nothing is given to me, okay? I see a little cross mark here. I could technically say, well, those little things are congruent, but that does not help in the big triangle, because here's the big triangle. So unless it's one of the corners of the big triangle, it's not helping me. So any common sides or angles they share is just BC. All right, so if we take this further on later down the road and ask you to prove them, we have to give you more information. Otherwise, you can't prove them congruent right now. All right, so just go ahead, pause the video. That's all you're going to do for the next three examples. Separate them, draw them, decide if you have any common sides or angles based upon how they lie. All right, go ahead and pause. All right, so in this one I had to separate JML and NKL. JML, and KL. All right, which I did. I drew them. The only thing they have in common is that angle L. Nothing else can I determine right now is congruent. Any sides, any shared sides, or any shared angles. Just L. They share the top. All right, at the bottom, common sides or angles, UXV. So it helps if you draw it and trace it in the original diagram, and then you can look at what you're breaking down. And VWU. And the only thing they share is this side UW. Okay, we don't know anything else about any angles or sides. Nothing else is given to us. All right, and the last one, KNJ and KML. Okay, the only thing they share, once again, is K. And guys, if you look at the names of them too, you can look at what they have in common. If they only have one letter in common, like K, they're probably not sharing any sides, okay? Most likely an angle, maybe, but you can't guess. You have to look and see, do they indeed share a same angle? And then over here, there was a UV in both. So that's how I knew that I could find a common side, because they both had the two letters. So that was good to go. All right, we are all done for today. We'll be working on overlapping triangles and doing proofs with overlapping triangles in class.